gonna do? Okay. All right, so I gotta get my chat set up, and then we'll go ahead and take a look. First things first, if you have questions on any of the previous assignments or you're stuck on those, make sure you take a look at the videos because I walk through the steps you'll need. And if you're still stuck, go ahead and email me for some help. There we go. Okay. Okay, got that set up. All right, so what was I looking at here? Oh, that is the wrong thing. Okay. So we looked at everything you need to complete the user sign up. Okay. And the last thing we looked at was using templates instead of strings to set up the pages in your web app. All right. And so you guys should, let's see, where are we in terms of dates? User sign up is, you got 2 days on that, so make sure you're you know, you might realize these projects are going to ask you to do things in a way, you know, it uses the same stuff that we talked about, but it's going to ask you to do it in a way that's you know, a little different so that you can test your skills out. But if you get stuck, I can help explain different parts here. And so the next one that we're going to be working towards is build a blog. So in user sign up, you'll create an app that allows users to sign up, and I believe okay. It's just a registration app at this point, and we're going to turn this into a basic blog app in the next assignment. Build a blog, all right, and this is where we'll be introducing databases into our web app so that we can keep persistent data between sessions of people using the web app. So if they sign up we can store information about their account in the database, and then when they want to come back, they can log in with the username and password, and if they have posted any entries in the blog, we can tie that into their account. All right, so there are the first thing. The first two parts here are purely about SQL. All right, so if you haven't taken that class, maybe you're in it now, or maybe you've taken it in the past, this is going to be a review. If you have not taken a database class, you really need to look at this, the prep work here for these two sections. All right, that'll get you up and running. I recommend the Khan Academy course here. That'll be you know, it's free, and it'll get you going. All right, and you might want to wait and when you're working on the assignment, if you're having problems with the database part, you can look back at this. But we're not going to spend any time in this class on it because there's another class where you learn about that. We'll just look at the parts we need for our app. Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to move on to Flick List 5 today, and we'll do that today in class. All right. All right, we'll simply add a few features onto our project and get everything teed up for the next studio. So we're kind of setting things up to use a database in this Flick List, and then the next one will implement the database and tie it in so that we can use it. And again, the reason we're using a database is so we have a place to store information that we can pull out later if we need to use that in the web app. So it's persistent data, it stays. Alright, so there's no more walkthroughs, they just kind of work that into the studios now. And so we need to go to our Flick List Flask folder. I have mine open here. I have one open here so I can run git commands, and I have another one open so I can run the server. So two terminal windows open in tabs. Remember, if you want to do this, you can either just open two terminal windows, or within your terminal you can just do open tab, and you can just select the first one here, and that'll add a new tab. So you could have three. If you want three, I guess. Depends on how much stuff you're doing at once. We're just working on one thing, so I'll just have two. One for the server, one to do my git commands. Okay, so what are we doing in this studio? Okay, we are going to change the watch list so we don't need a cross-off form. What we're going to do is we're going to add a button next to every item in your watch list that allows you to cross it off. Alright, and so we can see that here in the form for the this is the home page. We're going to list our movies. In each one we will include a button next to it. So this is what, let's see, well, we'll look at the code when we get there, but it's specific. It wants we changed this to store list items. So let's look at where we left off first. That's a good starting point. Python main.py, that starts the server. Okay, no errors, we're good to go. So I'm going to control click the address. And did we just do the walkthrough last time? Let me double check here. Okay, I think I asked you guys to do this part on your own if we didn't already do it. Okay. And we're switching anyway, so I do recommend, if I suggest that you do something on your own, you should probably try it, and if you get stuck, ask questions, because we got to fill in, your knowledge here in different, some of you have had database, some may not, some of you had Python, some may have not, so if you are, if you don't have all the classes before this class, and you get stuck on something, I just need to fill in those gaps for you. So, okay. Which I'm not going to do here, but if you need that, you just email me and we can set up a time. Let's see if you guys remember how to switch branches. What's the command? It's git checkout. We want to get Studio 5. Okay, so if we look at git branch, that shows us all the branches that we've accessed here. So in Studio 5, that changed the files to match the branch of Studio 5, so we can open that and take a look at where our starting point is here. So code dot, that's opening this directory in Visual Studio Code. Okay. And I'm going to close some of these files here. Okay, so inside of our directory, we have a templates folder, and it has 4 template files. All right, I'm going to minimize that for now. We have the main.py. That's what we want to look at right now. And they've got a list of to-dos in here, quite a few. Okay, and those are going to tie in with the instructions on the page. But let's see if it runs. So if we go in here, all right, it did restart the server and it's working. So we can go back to Chrome, reload the site. All right, so this is where we're starting from. They took away, well, they added actually the list of movies in a unordered list, and we know that because here are the bullets. If we want to see the code from this end, we can hit F12, and we can use the inspector here to go down, click somewhere so we can see in the code. Here's the unordered list tag, and so each item is in a list. So we're going to be adding a button next to each of these to cross it off. Okay. Okay, we want to, we should always be using templates here so that we can take all the HTML out of the Python file and only use it in our template files. So that if we need to change the HTML, we know exactly where to look. It's good to be consistent and separate things into categories, which is what templates kind of do here. So they want us to create this add confirmation.html. Let's make sure they didn't already do that. So in my templates, all right, here's the add confirmation.html. Let's see. Okay, and oh, I'm in Studio 4, my bad. Let's go back to Studio 5. That's what we already did. Okay, here we go. So we want to add that button, implement a feature where users can rate the movies they have watched. So that's going to require Add forms for the rating movies, one on each list item. So we're also going to, besides the button for crossing it off, okay. Okay, this is going to be a separate HTML file, so a separate template, and it's going to include movies that are crossed off, and then it'll have a form that will allow you to add a rating. All right, and then they'll add a page that will tell you the name of the movie and what you rated it as. Okay. They've got a video here of, if that does, reading this in text, they're kind of vague on some of these. If it doesn't make sense what you're supposed to do, you can check out this demo of the finished version. So here's the button where you can click I watched it, and then it crosses it off. All right. Notice it doesn't save anything because we don't have that persistent data yet. All right, so these two things we're going to add, and then in the next studio we will store which movies are crossed off, which ones are not, which movies are added, and what the rating is that you gave it. We'll store all that in a database, and then if you leave and come back, it will still be there. All right. So let's take a look at those to-dos. This is a good way to start. All right, to-do, modify my watch list. I'm gonna have to turn on word wrap here. Okay, modify my watch list so that you eliminate the need for the cross-off form. Next to every list item, display a button that says I watched it. Clicking the button will result in a confirmation message that the movie has been watched. So we'll have to pass, when you click the button, we need to pass the value that relates back to that movie so that we can use that in the confirmation page to say blah blah, you watched blah blah blah, whatever movie you click the button for. Okay. We'll need to add a form within the li tags. So we're going to be nesting forms inside of the unordered list. All right, and so don't be confused. Our form is just going to be one button. All right, so let's go down. Let's find that. Where is that form going to be? Well, let's make sure it's not in here, because remember, we don't want any HTML in here. Right. Okay, it's not in here. So they've already moved it to a template. Okay. Edit.html. It actually told us. Okay, so we no longer need the cross-off list. So we can get rid of this whole chunk down here. We added this link to the ratings page, but it won't work until you make the ratings.html file. Okay. So there's a link to the ratings page. This is for the error. Okay. So up here is where we're creating the list items. So this part right here is saying, and if you remember here in the HTML file, when you want to use some logic or do some comparisons or use a loop, we use the Jinja2 language. And so anytime you see this curly brace and %, that means you're starting some Jinja code. You put in the code, and then you close it with % curly brace. And so you guys should be familiar with an if statement at this point of your program. This is saying if the watch list has a length of any number greater than 0. That's not a big package, is it? All right. Then you will add this to the page. If you have 0 movies on your watch list, it just won't add this. And so this part right here, we can see that on the page. That is this part right here. Okay. And so if we go back into the main.py real quick, we add another movie into our function here, and we'll be replacing this with the database information. We won't be storing it in a string in here anymore, because that's not persistent. We can go back, make sure we've saved everything. So I'm going to go to File. Okay, Save All is grayed out, so I know it's saved. Refresh the page, and so we're set up to take, if we have a list of movies, it will print those out in an unordered list. Okay, so we're working in edit.html. Okay, and so I'm thinking I'm probably going to do a commit after we add the button in and test it out. So you should always be thinking about how, what feature you're going to change or what feature you're going to add. If it's something big, add it a piece at a time and commit those pieces. If it is something small, make your changes and then commit that. So inside of each list item, that's where we want our button. So that's where we're going to add our form. And so this is going to get messy. So let's go ahead and make some space here so we can see this. We want a form with an action of add and whoop, we're going to the add route. Oh, no, this is the cross off. My bad. Okay. And so we want to have this bring you to the cross off route. I want to make sure they have it the same way here. So / cross off, we're going to go there, and we want to send the name of the movie using the post method, because that's what this is expecting to receive. So the action is bringing us to the cross off route, so that we can use that movie data to know which movie to cross off. The method is post, and that's our opening form tag, and there's our closing form tag, and all we want is a submit button here. Let's see, I wonder if they're using a hidden element. Let's go ahead and see if we can do this. Oh, no, we don't. What do we need to do? We need to go to cross off question mark. No, that's get. So we need to, in our submit, we'll do value, name, and value. So the name will be, what is it expecting in that route? Okay, it's going to pull request.form crossed off movie. So see here, this is where they're pulling the post data that's sent from the form, and it's looking for something named crossed off movie. All right, since we already have everything set up to use that, we will set that as our name so it knows to use the value from this submission. And what value are we going to pass? Well, it has to be the name of the movie. And this is a for loop that's going to go through the list of movies and create a list item with a form for all of the movies. Okay, so here we're putting the name of the movie, and so we can just, and this is using a variable in Jinja. This is grabbing the movie out of the watch list, and the watch list is passed in, remember, in the index page, which is just a slash. When we, why is that earn? I scrolled over, yeah. So my word wrap got turned off. There we go. Okay. In the index, we are using, remember we use this render template function. It needs a template file, and it needs a list, and it's going to call that watch list, and it's going to pass that into the template to generate the page. So it's using edit.html, which is where we're putting that button. Alright, so in this for loop, movie references the movie that's pulled out of the watch list, which will become every movie in the list eventually. So it'll run the first time, it'll grab best movie ever, and so we want to use that name as the value for now. And that will be our submit. Okay. Let's see, is submit even a thing? I think this needs to be an input. Let's see. Okay, we saved it. Let's see what happens. All right. In our list item, we have the form, and there we have a submit, which is not the right syntax for a submit button here anyway. Well, I guess you have to toggle word wrap individually on the files. Okay. So what we want is input type equals submit. There we go. That's what we want. That's how you make a submit button in an HTML form. There we go. And I guess we don't want to set the name. What do we want to do here? We want the value to be I watched it. Alright, and then I guess if we do that, we do need to use a hidden field here. So right now, if I send this over, or if I hit this button in the page, it is going to go to the cross-off route, and it won't know which movie we've crossed off, so we got to get that in there. And so we can include inside the form here, if you just need to include some information attached to things, but you don't want it to show up on the page. We can do input type hidden. I believe that's right. And then we can set the name back to crossed off movie, and we can set the value to the movie variable. All right. And making sure I got all my stuff in there. Save. It's looking weird here. Oh, forgot a. There we go. Okay. Let's see if that works. So it's gonna. This will be our crossed off movie form element. So the cross off route will be able to grab crossed off movie from the form, and the value of that is going to be the movie, the actual name of the movie. Okay, so that's all saved. Make sure the server's up. Okay, it is. We'll refresh the page here. And now it says I watched it. So let's say best movie ever. I watched it. And it did not go to cross off because I think it says best is not in your watch list, so you can't cross it off. Oh, okay. So think about this for a second. Why did it only grab the first word in the name of the movie? This has to do with HTML. And this is something that you'll have to learn as you are working with, HTML and Python and SQL with the database. You have to make sure that you follow the rules of all the languages at the same time. And so if you have a variable, if you have a value in HTML that has spaces in it, HTML is only going to use the first word, and so we need to put that in quotes so it knows that whole value is the name of the movie. So that way it can find it and doesn't give us an error. Let's get rid of this, and let's move the button so that it's not on a separate line so we can see more of the page. So now we'll have to edit the form for that. So the form is inside the list item. And we have the name here. Let's see if this fixes it. No, that shouldn't make a difference. Hit the button. Should work. Okay. Well, let's look at the elements here and see how it's doing it. So we have here in this LI we have the two things. I wonder if the submit button is a block element. So in that case, we'll have to use CSS to fix that. So for the button, we can change the CSS. We can just do it inline for now. Style equals display inline. Alright, and so this is from chapter 6 in 099. if an element is inline, it can go on the same line as other inline elements. If it's block, then it creates its own horizontal space all the way across the page, or all the way across the container that it's in. All right, so, forgot to save. Go over here, refresh. Okay. So that did not fix it. Oh, it's the form. All right. The form is the block element. So we want to change. We don't want to do this in the submit button. We want to do this in the form. All right. There we go. So now we can see a lot more on the page because the button's next to it. All right, and we'll keep it like this. We can work on making this look better later. It's not really the point of the class. It's to get it to work. And then once it's working, you can make it look better with the idea of improving the user experience. Okay, so now we have those buttons. We can test them out. And that didn't work. Value movie. We do have it in quotes. Let's see if we put single quotes in there too. Well, let's look at what it's showing in the HTML. So we'll start at the button here because that's inside the form, and we can look at the hidden here, and it is putting the value of best movie ever in there, but it's only sending oh, now it's working. I guess I must have went back and forgot to refresh the page. Yeah, I just forgot to refresh the page. That'll happen. Okay, so it did fix it. Good. So now when we click on these buttons, it'll cross off the movie. Of course, it's not actually doing anything yet, but it's set up to do, all we have to do is insert a command to manipulate the database, which we still have to set up. Okay, so we got that one part done. I think there's only one more part for this. And that is, let's go back to the to-dos that were in the main.py. Well, again, we finished a feature. We got the cross-off buttons, the I watched it buttons implemented, and it's working. So this would be a good time to commit. So I want to add the files for my commit, add all the changes. So I'll do git add dot, and then we will commit the change. So git commit -m, so we can leave a comment, which is required for a commit. And we'll say added I watched it buttons in the watch list. That's probably redundant, but that's how I wanted to do mine. You can make your own comment. Remember, the comments are to help you step through the changes made in the code. So you should be able to look back at your commits and see exactly what you changed and when you changed it. That way, if you ever need to go back, you don't have to read all the code manually to figure out what you did. So you're just summarizing what you did. So that committed it to the local repository. So now those changes are stored on my computer in the local repository. If we want to put that on the remote repository, what do? We do git push. And we have to log in. Okay. All right, no errors. And follow through here. So when you push, it's putting it into your remote repository that you cloned from when you started the project. Book list Flask. Okay, and then we can look at the commits. Whoops, we got to make sure we're on the right branch here, or it's not going to show the commits. We're on Studio 5. Okay, and here it is. I added I watched it buttons in the watch list. All right. So now what is our next part? So you want to chop it up, chopping your work up into pieces that you can complete. It's a good way to complete anything complicated. Break it down into simple pieces. You know, if you're not very knowledgeable yet, or don't have a lot of experience what you're doing, break it down into small pieces that you can focus on. I recommend that for this, so you're not overwhelmed with what is, you know, I'm doing something that is going to end up taking 7 steps. Let's start with the first one and then figure that out. And sometimes things only make sense in context. So, and you guys know, as you add things here, you can't really test it until you finish. Okay. Here's another thing. So since we're talking about that, I think if we put a print in here, there's the render template. Okay. I was confused. This is all one line here. Okay, so before we do the render the template, I'm going to print out a message. Maybe I want to know what the value of the first movie is. I don't know. You can get anything. Let's see if this works first, though, before I talk more about it. So let's go. Thank you for that. That's really useful. Get rid of that. Okay. It's not annoying. Okay. Let's grab the first one. So if we call get current watch list, that returns a list of movies. Let's just print out that list. Let's see what that does. Make sure this works. Okay. Go to the server. I believe if we reload the page now, it should show us in the terminal right here. Where did this come from? So this is from our print. So if you want to break things down into smaller steps to make sure it's working, this is a really useful debugging tip, especially if you don't know what you're doing. It can be hard because if you're making mistakes, you know, if you're doing those 7 steps and then you don't know which one's broken, you're going to have to, it's easy to get overwhelmed because you're going to have to figure out which one it is. So here you can break it down into even smaller pieces. So if you're using a variable, print it out and see what the value is, because it maybe you forgot to put the right thing in there, and so you can kind of get a peek at what's happening in the background. It's a really useful debugging tool. All right. If you're doing a lot of these and you notice it's not really formatted the best, you can put a little thing to kind of help you see it. And so here's a good way to do it. You can create a little function. I'll call it print bar, and all it will do is print a bunch of asterisks, 2 lines. Oops. That will be very visible to us if we use this in the output. Okay. And so anytime we want to use that, we can just do where we're printing out the, here, where we're printing out the watch list, we can do print bar as a function. Whoops, how did it do that? Because we defined this function, so now we can use it. And if we save and reload the page, we probably have an error in here. What's it say? Oh, I didn't make it a string. Thought that looked weird. Go back to the top. Throw this in here. And this is kind of like formatting the output so it's easier to read. Restart the server. And then whenever I refresh the page, that code will run. And we can easily identify in the terminal where that is. Because look, we have a little divider. There's the list. Right. You could label it too, but doing something like this, you know, you can really see it a lot better. Maybe I'll just do one line return on there. Anyway, you don't have to do this. This has nothing to do with, you know, getting it, what it's going to do in the end. This is purely to help you debug, and it's really useful. I should have probably talked about it before, but I'll put a little comment here for outputting. We'll put crap. Use print to output to the terminal. Web server terminal. So it's going to go to whichever one. And I did talk about this before. Every time someone makes a request of the web server, so I want to go to this, I want to go to a page, I have to make a request. It's going to output that request in the terminal of the web server here, and then you can use that for you know, collecting statistics on certain things, and also debugging. So if I, you know, click here, wait, why is this not working now? All right, I probably messed something up. So let's go. I watched it. We can see now in the terminal all those requests are here. I'm done, you know, I'm done testing out what this value is, and so it's, you know, it's kind of making it hard to read at this point. I can comment that out or remove it. I'm going to comment it out, so if I need it again, I have it. All right, and I think the shortcut for commenting is well, it's the same as replit, Control//. So that's good. If I save it, refresh the page one more time. Oh, well, they have a link here that just brings you back to the home page, so that's nice. So I clicked it twice. Here are two requests. The first one was for the index route. The second one was for the index route. Let's click a button. And it's not the, this is not, oh, I added in those single quotes and I don't need those. All right, it's a good idea to finish what you're doing and not do a million things at once. Okay. Because especially in coding, if you start to, what I'll do is I'll start to build something like create a variable, and then I'll realize, well, this isn't going to work unless I do this, and then I go start to add that, but I haven't finished typing the variable. So be careful about that. So now I can click I watched it, go back to the home page, I watched it, and we can see now in the terminal these requests. I'm going to shrink this just a little bit, so whoops, I want to change the, Nope, I want edit maybe. Here we go. Profile preferences, that allows us to change the size. Of the font. Where was that? Oh, anyway, you guys can see that these are part of the same line. So down here, here's where I clicked the button. You can see it's a request to the cross-off form. All right. A post request. So there's some data in the header there that the cross-off route can use. A get request is just they're just asking. They're not giving you anything. They just want the page. And then yeah, that's all I want to say about that for now. But you can use this to help you figure things out. All right. As we move on, you'll see we'll also need to check the database terminal because it'll be its own separate entity to debug that. And part of that will be printing out our queries in the web server terminal so that we can error check those. So we're going to use a Python package that allows us to write Python code to communicate with an SQL database, and then we'll take that SQL, store it in a variable in Python, and then use that variable in Python to build an HTML page. So we're going from SQL, we'll be going from SQL to Python to HTML ultimately. So you can see why you need to be familiar with all of these languages for a web app, or for this kind of Flask web app. All right, so okay, got sidetracked. We're doing the other to-do now. Okay, and am I looking at the right one? Now I feel like I'm back in Studio 4. Okay. Nope, we did this one here. We added the button. Okay, we deleted the cross-off form. All right, next, make a ratings.html template. So in our templates, I'll select that folder, and then I'll do add new file. So I'll just use the Visual Studio Code graphical user interface to create the file. If you wanted to use the command line, you would have to go down into your templates folder, and you could do touch what's it called, ratings.html. Either way, ratings.html. Okay, and then it says to, whoops, not close it, ratings.html template, which lists all movies that have been crossed off. It should have a header of movies I have watched, add a form for rating each list item or movie using a select dropdown with the option values 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4, and 5. And with a button that says rate it to submit the user's rating. Give this form the action of rating confirmation, so we'll have to add that route. And it's going to use the post method. I'm going to look ahead here because this is like a half-completed feature. Add a function, movie ratings, to handle a get request and render the template, which we're working on now, ratings.html. And then we need to add a function to get watched movies. And so we'll add some watched movie fake data in so that we can test out the ratings form. And we'll need to make a rating confirmation HTML template similar to the cross-off and the add confirmation, where it just says the name of the movie, what rating you gave it, and that's all it says, and then you can go back. Okay, and then create a rate movie function that handles a post request and renders the rating confirmation template. Okay, so let's first do Okay. Ratings.html template lists all the movies that have been crossed off using a select list. Okay, we already had this before for the cross off form. And we just deleted that. So that's a lot of fun. We can actually just reuse, if we go back to edit.html, well, go into edit.html, and we can just copy this template. Don't reinvent the wheel. And we're going to go to ratings. Wait, are we doing this on the home page? Let me double check here what it says. Always double check the directions here if you're not sure. Okay. Just lists all. Okay, so it will be a form on a separate page using a separate template. I guess it makes sense since they wanted me to make the ratings.html. Okay, so we'll just paste in this one, save it. Okay, and so just to keep things consistent and easy to understand, we're not going to pass in a list. We're not going to pass in the watch list. That's a list of movies we want to watch but we have not. So let's call it watched list. Okay, we still need to check if it's greater than 0, because if it's not greater than 0, we need to put a message that says, you don't have any movies to rate. Okay, my watched list. Okay, I don't think that's a full word, so we'll just call it. We'll do that. You can put literally whatever you want there. In this case, you're making this for practice. But, I mean, you get to choose. Okay. And we have this for movie and watch list. Here's our for loop. It's going to grab out all the movies for building the select list. We're going to pass it in as watched list. So I'll change it there. We're doing a select instead of a unordered list, so we need to change the UL to select. Make sure you do the closing tag there, and these need to be options instead of LIs. Alright, and we don't need, this whole thing will be a form, so outside of, right inside the if statement, that's where we need, no, it's actually after the H2 here. That's where we're going to put the form. Okay, because we only need one form. Wait, do we? Let's see what they say. No, we'll need one of these for each movie, so we will put the select inside of, you know what? We still need the list items. Inside the list item, we're going to put this select, because we're going to need a separate select for each movie. Alright. So instead of a submit button, well, we are going to have a submit button again. Okay, we can put our select structure here. Okay. Put the closing tag. And so doing it this way, we will get a select list for each movie in our watched list. And they want us to have the values of 1 star to 5 star in here. We're going to set the first option to a message. They wanted us to set that to a message that says, and here I'm doing it again. I'm leaving this halfway done, so I got to remember to come back. What did they say? The first one is, how was it? So that way, when it loads the page, it'll say the name of the movie you watched. Next to that will be a drop-down list that's inside will say, how was it? need to add the other options. Which are going to be 1, 2, 5 stars. Okay. You know, for this example, I'm only going to do 3 stars. How about that? Do you guys think you can extrapolate from that into 5 stars? Hopefully. Okay, so we added the select list in there. I feel like that we should test that in the HTML, but we can't because we don't have the ratings route yet. So we have to add that before we can test this. So why don't we do that? Okay, let's see if they already added it first. So we have the index route. We have the add route. And we have the cross off route. And so why don't we add? I'm just going to grab this top part here so I don't have to retype the whole thing. We'll call it rate. And don't forget to change the name of the function because we can't have 2 functions with the same name unless they have different parameters. So we can do rating, or I'll just call it rate also. And then in here, we need to return the render template of edit.html. So we give it a string to tell it which file to use. And then we need to give it a watched list. And did I capitalize that? Let's double check. It did not. Good. Okay. So okay, we're in the rate route. We want to render the template, not rend it. Okay, so we want to create a variable that's going to go into the template called watch list. That's going to call a function called get watched list. And so the variable names in Python traditionally are separated with underscores between the words. And my guess is because Linux as an operating system, I believe, is case sensitive, it's much easier to keep track of things if you just use all lowercase. Now, if you use you know, any other programming language, they use camel case. So I may use that in here. If you get a job where you're writing Python and other people have already been writing it, you should just adopt their standard, and they'll talk to you about that. Okay, so now well, you know what? For now, so we don't have to write this function right away. Let's just put get current watch list because that'll still let us test this. Okay, and now I believe we are ready to test it out. So make sure everything's saved. Make sure the server is still running. It is. Okay, and let's check the page. So we need to go to ratings. Okay. Oh, they called it ratings. What did I call it? Rate? Okay. Let's go. We'll just change the name. Ratings, and the function name here just has to be different than the other functions that you've defined. What this does is when the server receives a request for this path or route, it will run this function. That's what's happening here. Okay. Now we should be able to see this. Let's go back. Refresh. Oh, I didn't save. That's important. All right. Okay. Refresh one more time. And we'll go into ratings. Oh. We don't need to send anything by post data here because we're just going to another page. And so because this route has methods post, what this route requires is it will only take, or it'll only run this function if someone is going to the ratings route, request the ratings route, and they have post data. So we have to get rid of that to make it work without post data. Alright, so if I go to ratings, it is just bringing me back to the home page. Okay. Did I forget to set the template right? Yes, because I set it to edit.html, didn't it? This needs to be ratings.html. Okay. Refresh that. Okay, finally. Can it work? We'll see. Alright, there it is. I need to remove the form in here. I guess I forgot to do that in the template. But we can check our drop down. Choose a different star. And, oh, I just need to change the name of the button to rate it. Okay. That's in the template. So ratings template. We are changing this to rate it. Okay, and that'll show on the button now. And I'll zoom out so it's not a giant cluster on there of elements. There we go. And we can see, I don't need this right now. So whatever list of movies you pass in for the watch list, why is it still going there? Oh, when I copied the, when I copied this, we don't need the other forms. Okay, so I need to get rid of some of this. And I think I can do it quickly this way, hopefully. There we go. We don't need this. All right, we'll keep the error on there for now. No, I don't think there's going to be a chance for an error going from here. I mean, I guess we could set it so if someone tries to, somehow the data gets in there that you're trying to rate a movie you haven't watched yet, we could throw an error, but it's not in there in the instructions, at least not what we've looked at, so I'm not going to put it in. And we should be able to see this now. Okay. So here's the front page. If we want to do ratings, click here. And it's just this. Just these elements now. And I can choose an option and I can rate it. And it will explode because we do not have in our template the action for the form is going to cross off, which we don't want that. We want it to go to the rating confirmation page, which we have not created, but what we've created so far does work, so it's a good time to do a commit. So git add dot, and then we can do git commit -m added the ratings route and template. Okay, no errors, so we can do git push. So remember, it's add, commit, push, and if you were collaborating on this with someone else, before you do your commits, you're going to want to do a pull so you get the latest version if other people are changing things. and then you can test their changes against yours, and then once all that works out, you can do a git add dot to push your changes up there, and then a git commit, and then a push. Okay. There's a lot of different ways to use this. So in project systems management, I think it's called, we'll do a web app in there where you will be collaborating with other students. So you'll get to see that the use of that in GitHub using Git and repositories. Okay, so I push that and log in. Okay, and we can follow through to see. You don't have to look here every time, you can trust it, but I'm going to show it so you can see what's going on. Here are the commits for Studio 5 branch of this remote repository. So I added watched it buttons in the watch list. I added the ratings route and template. Next is to add the ratings confirmation page. So we'll need a route and a template for that. So let's see what they want us to do first. We have to do both, but let's do it here. Okay, so we're done with this one. Well, I'll leave them in here because I might have missed something. Gives for an action of rating. Okay, here we go. So we want to give it an action of rating confirmation. I think I might have skipped that. So in the form on ratings, it is trying to go to cross off. We don't want that anymore. We want rating confirmation. So it'll go to that route. But we don't have that route, so we just need to add it. Okay, so we can just copy. What I like to do is just copy this one, use it as a template for the next one. And so this will be rating confirmation. And this time it's just using a dash, so that's fun, right? Okay. So if someone tries to go to rating confirmation, they will, the code down here will run. So rating confirmation. Again, these names don't need to be the same. I'm just doing that for consistency. And we need to render the rating confirmation template, which we don't have yet, so we'll build that. And we want to pass in values from the form. Into this route, just like we did in add and cross off. Okay, so here's add. Notice it has the methods post, and cross off has methods post. That's because they need to use that to access the form data. So we'll need that in our ratings confirmation, or rating confirmation. So I'll put that as an additional argument here, so that you can only access this page if you have post form data. Alright, let's save it, and we can't test it until we have our rating confirmation template done, so don't put two commas here, and save it. Okay, that's working. What did I forget here? Line 55. You might not be able to use dashes in the names here. No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it might be that. Yeah. Can't use dashes in your Python identifiers. So variable names, function names, anything you're naming, don't use dashes. So I'll just put an underscore there. Okay. And now everything should be fine. We can add that template. So I go into the templates folder here, do a new file. We're going to call it rating-confirmation.html. And we have a few other confirmation. We have add confirmation. So that's a really good one to start with. We'll just take the code there as a starting point, so we don't have to repeat all this boilerplate stuff. All right, and then we'll put movie, so we'll have to pass in a variable called movie, has been, well, let's look at what they put, so my terrible grammar doesn't look weird. Okay, it says, use the message, think they care. Okay, so we want to say blah movie has been rated blah stars, or has been rated, and then just print out the number of stars it's been rated as. So we'll need to put has been rated, and then we'll do variable, we'll call it stars. Okay. Okay, and let's go ahead and put a strong tag around that. That'll make it bold. That's just a formatting thing. It doesn't need to be done here, but I just want to show you what else you can do while you're working on this. All right, and so when we render the rating confirmation template, we have to pass in a variable called movie and a variable called stars. So where are we rendering that template? It's going to be in one of the routes. So we go back to main.py, and we look for the new route we added, rating confirmation, and we're using the rating confirmation template, and we don't need to pass in the watch list here because we only need to pass in movie, and we should be able to grab that from the post method of the submission of the form. And so we can just grab that from the form. We'll call it movie. We'll have to do that in a second. And the other thing is the stars, which we can also pull from the form. Okay, so stars equals stars. So what this is saying is you're going to pass a variable called stars into the template to use. The value of that variable is the value of stars from the function here, whatever code we set it to. So maybe to make this easy, because this can be confusing, let's call it movie. So these are the template ones, and these are the values in the code. So we'll call this movie value. How about that? And stars value. And there I'm using camel case for those. So It's not the Python standard, but it's fine for now. Okay, so we need to get those values from the form because we are using the post method here. And so the name, all we have to do is reference the name of the form element that has the value we need. So we can use the same thing from the other confirmation here. So down here, they're using request.form, and then you put the name of the element in square brackets and quotes. Because this is a dictionary, that the key is the name of the movie. The key is not the name of the movie. The name of the element, and the value is whatever is in the value field, or value attribute of that HTML element. Lots of things to keep track of. So what was I doing here? Oh yeah, I was grabbing this so we can get that form data. So we'll be getting two things from the form. We'll be getting the movie value, okay, and that will be, I don't know, we haven't named it in the form yet, maybe, so let's wait on putting the name in there. And I'll put a little thing to remind me to come back here. So I'll do to do, update the form names. Okay, and if I put that in there, I'll see that in my plugin here. Extensions. Nope, not that one. It's called to-dos. Here we go. And so now I can see the one I just added, update the form names. If I want, I can jump back quickly here after I fix the template. So you can make little notes to yourself to help you remember, because sometimes you'll have to go to multiple places to implement something, which is something you try to reduce as much as possible in code, but sometimes you can't always make it perfect just because of the way it works, not because you don't know how. There just isn't a way. Okay. And the other thing is we want to get stars value. Stars value. Should probably have just called that rating, but and so now those will be passed into the template, but we don't know what the names of the things are from the form, names of the input elements. So let's go back to the rating confirmation. I'll save this, and then we'll go back to rating confirmation. Nope, we need the ratings. That's where the form is. And so in our select here, we'll give it a name of rating. How about rating? And inside of these options, we need to put a value, and it'll just be the string here. Okay. And we don't need to put quotes around these for the HTML. We can just copy this value attribute. And add in some asterisks. Okay. Save that. Whoops, that needs to be 3, right? Okay. Alright, and that'll let us grab the rating. How do we get the name of the movie? We can use a hidden field again for that. A hidden form element. I'll just stick it down here. You put a before or after. It won't show up on the page. It'll be in the code though. So you don't want to use this to put any kind of private data, even though it doesn't show up on the page, you can easily look at the code and see the values of the attributes and stuff. So set that name equal to movie, and the value is equal to the variable for movie, which we got from the watch list that gets passed in here. All right. Okay, and so the problem here is going to be if they don't. Well, we can show it. Okay, so let's save everything. Okay, save all. I gotta finish that little to do, so I can go back here, and I called it rating and stars. Rating and no, not stars. Rating is the stars. Name. So we want name to go into movie value. We want rating to go into stars value. Okay, because that's what we named them here. Hidden name. Oh, it's called movie, not name. Movie. All right. Keeping track of what goes where when working with these different languages, it takes practice. Okay. If you're confused, it's because it's confusing until you understand where things come from, where they go. You may have to watch this part, multiple times. Get the code down. See if you can get it to work. Try changing some things, try to do some things that you think of. If they don't work, you can ask me, say, well, I tried to do this using this and this. Didn't work, and I can say, well, you can't do that, or I can say, here's how you would do that. We can talk about, whatever you need to know. Okay, let's test it out, make sure the server is running. It's not, because I have an extra comma in here somewhere. On line 54, right here. No, I do not have that. Oh, I just need to restart the server. That's an error from before. Okay, now it's running. Let's check go back to the home page here. Alright, and go to ratings. Okay. Oh, we lost our button. Okay, or maybe I never added it. So we need to go back to the template for ratings. Oh, I never closed this, and I typed this wrong again. Input type equals hidden, and then close the element. Okay, so I got that about 70% done there. And so how did I know that was wrong? Well, I mean, this one was obvious. The button wasn't there, so obviously it was wrong. There, now we have a button. So here's the problem I was worried about. If we just click, if we keep it as how was it and we do rate it, it's going to accept that and put out rate it. I'm getting all the emergency alert texts and things. You're probably getting them too if you're watching this, because it's Tuesday. All right. So we don't want them to be able, and it's not that we don't want them to be able to, because we don't want them to be able to do it because it would be confusing if they could. Someone will do it. They won't use it. They don't always. Users don't always use things the way you think they're going to, and so you want to eliminate any options that'll cause mistakes for them. So how do we fix that? So basically, in the we would do it inside of the route. We could do it in the route. So in rating confirmation, because we have the same thing already in, and so now we do need that error thing back. In cross off, here, where it says if the crossed off, if we didn't have the movie to cross off, it would throw an error. So now, and then redirect you back to the home page. And so we don't want to do that. What we want to do is, if they choose how was it, redirect them back to the ratings page, and it'll look like nothing happened to them. And so it won't do anything. Or you could do something like hide the button until they select one. But again, you don't want to hide and add form elements, because that can be confusing for the user. Okay, so we need just this part down here. No, we need the if statement all the way to the return redirect. Okay, I think definitely the touchpad is difficult to use on this computer, but using it in a VM, I'm sure introduces more problems. Okay, so we want the return redirect here. This is exactly what we want to do. If they submit the wrong thing, send them back to the ratings page. So we go back up to our ratings confirmation, and so we don't want to. We want to put this above the returning the template, because we don't even want them to get that far unless they have selected an actual rating. So we can check if, because we're passing in the rating, we can say if rating equals that message we put in the options, rating confirmation. Right. Just lost my train of thought. Okay, if rating equals, how was it? There we go. And we want to redirect them back, because that's not a rating. That's just a helpful message. If rating equals how was it, pass an error. Well, we don't even want to pass an error here, because it'll just look like it doesn't do anything, and then they'll know to choose. Okay, and even though I'm saying, make it as easy for the user, and if you ever find yourself saying, well, they'll figure it out because it needs to work this way or that way, don't ever, if you hear yourself saying that, it should trigger something in your mind that says, okay, I need to make sure they know what they're doing. I can't assume they know anything. So you need to fill in, if you've ever been bowling, you need to put the bumpers, the inflatable bumpers in the gutters. Make sure they can do what they need to do. Okay, so we're just not going to do an error. All right, and we don't need all these comments. All we need to do is stick them back to the ratings page, the rating page, ratings, which to get there we need to go to the rating route, which I think is called ratings. Okay, so /ratings. So save all that, make sure we didn't indent wrong or anything. Okay, that's working. And then in here, you can refresh. Okay, so now if I try to rate it, okay, rating is not defined. Okay, when you get an error in here, it's gonna, this is a runtime error, I guess you can think of. Oh man. I've been using the word rating a lot, so let's see. It happened when I tried to submit. So we know in the form, let's check the form first. Okay. Rating is the name of this form element, so maybe it's that. That gets handled by the ratings confirmation route. Okay, if rating, oh, we never grabbed it out of the form data. There we go. Talked about it, but then we never grabbed it. Are we grabbing it here? Wow, okay. The first thing you need to do before you do anything is grab the form data. So we just need to move this up. All right, we had it all in there, it was just in the wrong order. There we go. Now we can go back, refresh, and rate it. All right. That was not the error. Rating is not defined. Oh, because I called it stars value. Okay. So if stars value is equal to how was it? Because I'm grabbing the rating out of the form, putting it in here, and then we're just going to check if it was if it's this value. All right. Go back, refresh, get the right version, and then rate it. Let's see. Did I make a mistake in the, if that equals that, we should redirect back to ratings. Now this needs to be indented. Okay. How was it? Question mark. Okay, let's save everything. Make sure everything's saved. It might be just using the old value. Okay. Check the server. That's already happened to me once during this video, so. Okay, go back to the home page. Go back to ratings. Try to rate it. Okay, it's still not working. So this, oh, I have in the form, I still have quotes around this. All right. And it didn't matter because it's not sending the right value anyway. How was it? We gotta have it send the value anyway for it to check. Okay. Okay. Ratings page. Rate it. Okay. It just doesn't do anything now. So that's good. And then if we pick a star value, we got it. Okay, I think that's everything in the to-dos. All right, and again, this is setting it up so that we're going to replace the get current watch list and the get watch list with queries to the database to pull that information out. When they add a movie, it'll go into the database. When they cross something off, it will change an attribute to whether it's been watched or not, and we'll be able to use that persistent data. So we'll talk about that next time. Okay. We use the get current watch list for our watched list. So it's the same thing. It's just a list of strings. So we were able to test it. So last things, we got to make sure we do our get add dot, and then I did so many things here I forgot what I even did. Okay, in the ratings HTML I think let's check what I wrote on the last one here. Add the ratings route and template. I think all we did was fix it to handle if they make the wrong choice. Okay, so we can do git commit dash m added validation for the select list for rating movies. All right, and then we can do git push, log in. All right, that's all good. We can see that now here. So there we go. We did in 3 commits. And I think that's everything. So next time we'll take a look at Studio 6. So before then, you're going to want to take a look at the prep work. So before next week, make sure you take a look. Again, if you, what I would do is I would skip to the prep work for Flick List 6. Start looking at, I guess there's only a couple examples here. Here they build an app using databases. And now that reminds me, I'm going to set up an announcement in the class. You'll have to run a couple of commands to install the packages we need. The relational object mapper, which will allow us to access a database from Python. So look for that. You'll need that for this. I'm not sure if he goes over how to set that up. If he's talking about database stuff and you're lost, all you have to do, go back to the prep work here, and you can take a look at this. I would do the Khan Academy thing. This is just straight up SQL, so it has nothing to do with implementing a database in a web app, but it's good review if you haven't taken database in a while or you haven't taken it at all. If he talks about terms and stuff, you can come find him in here. And as always, you can ask me in the database part 2. Huh, you know what, I've never looked at this. What does this do? Oh, it's just a little quiz here to help you test your knowledge. So you may want to do this, and then if you can't figure it out, then you need to review the material. So I would do the Khan Academy. This shows you, it is going to bring you to the same place, but there are different lessons in there, and so it's showing you over here specifically what lessons you need to look at. So you might want to just look at those anyway. At least look at the Khan Academy ones by next week. In here it's saying, I'll post this in the announcements. Okay, anyway, have a good day, and I'll see you next Tuesday.